Well, hi again everybody, welcome to my latest video. Well, this is going to be a computer build, but it's not going to be with parts that you haven't seen before, at least in the most cases. These are the parts I took out of my last build, my backup editing rig that had in it this Tomahawk B450 motherboard with a 2700X Ryzen CPU, 16 gigs of 3000 megahertz memory from Corsair, also the Radeon RX-580 video card. And as you may recall from previous videos, if you happen to see them, especially my video that I did for Black Friday deals, I bought this CPU, the motherboard, and this video card on a really good Black Friday deal over at Micro Center. Got a really good discount, plus I got a rebate on the motherboard as well. I mean, they automatically gave me, I think, $30 off because I bought the CPU and a compatible motherboard, and then this was on sale, like a deal that was fantastic. Even today, if I could get it again, it'd be worth it. The 480 gigabyte SSD, 2.5 inch, so that's going to be carried over. That was in the last build as well. I pulled it out and replaced it with an NVMe M2 drive. And then there's this EVGA 600 watt power supply that was in that last build as well. I took that out, and that'll be in this build along with the other components. Now the case is going to be one you've seen before if you've seen some of my other videos. This is a DYI-PC case. I bought it on a phenomenal deal. Getting a case that's this attractive for what came out to less than $30 out of pocket was well worth having it just as a reserve. Now the reason we're using this case is the plastic is necessary in this case because this build is going to be sent to my grandson down in North Carolina. He's starting first grade, and of course, you know, the world conditions are that you need to do remote learning now, at least to the most part. So he needs a computer to do that. I'm going to put a little extra heart into this one, as you know what I mean, to make sure this one works well. The big difference is going to be the fans. I'm going to pull this little white fan out of here, and I'm going to replace it with 3 new fans. These are the only new components I have for this build. They are DC fans, not PWM, but that's good enough. It should work okay. They have RGB that is not programmable in any way. You can't even connect it up to the motherboard. They run on their own color sequence. You can't change it. I'm going to put 2 of these in the front and 1 in the back. The 2 in the front, though, I'm going to do a different organization of the fans than I did the last time I built this. Rather than put 1 fan in the middle and 1 fan down in the bottom, mostly in the PSU shroud area. And even though there's slots here, they're supposed to let the air through, I think it's been very limited, especially with all the cabling from the power supply left over and pushed up in front of it, and you know, other factors related to the PSU shroud. So now I'm going to push it up to the top. And when I push it up to the top, it's going to actually block that 5.25 inch bay that's meant for like a DVD, CD drive. Let's face it, nobody's going to use that. So put a fan behind that. Now I'm going to recommend to my son, I won't do it for him, it's very easy, but this little door opens up. And I'll show you later on, if that door is out of there, we accomplish 2 benefits. One is there'll be more air going into that top fan. And second of all, you'll be able to see the RGB on the fans. Well, I'll leave it up to him to make that decision because it will expose the fan a little bit if somebody sticks their finger in there. So maybe he doesn't want to do that. He could always, put maybe some kind of screen behind it if he'd like, if he decides to do that. But I'm going to leave it as is for now. But that should also give this case better cooling. As you may recall from the last time I used it, it did not have good airflow, and therefore it did not have very good cooling capability. The CPU ran right at the edge of its heat envelope, which I don't like it to run at. So I think moving the fans up will actually make it work a lot better, but we'll do some testing and we'll see. I don't think he's going to be running any high-powered games on this PC. I still don't want it to get that hot, if you know what I mean. So I think that covers it. I'm going to start putting this together next. If you get something out of this video, or you just find it enjoyable in any way, at least consider subscribing to my channel. It will really help this channel grow. Okay, let's start by getting this power supply installed. And as has always been the case, I use the same 4 screws I've used all along with this power supply. They followed it throughout. They came with it. So I'll stick to that. That way you make sure we always have the right length. We'll turn the whole thing over, and then the next step will be to put the motherboard in. But before I do that, I'm going to take this fan out. A lot easier with the fan out. Another lesson learned. I'm going to be replacing it anyway, so might as well get it out now. There we go, and I'll save this for a future purpose. Not sure exactly what right now. I'm going to put the front fans in. So let me pull the front bezel off at this point. Gotta watch out for those wires, right? So I'm gonna turn this upside down and put it across the top like this. And I'm gonna put those two fans in here before I get started putting the motherboard in. Let me get those fans and start getting the job. Now these fans come with rubber anti-vibration pads, so I got to put those on each of the fans before I put them in. There's enough of these for both the front and the back. Now obviously I'm going to put it on the side that's going to be contacting the case. So as you can see here, I put them in each of the corners here, and I got extras then because I'll have enough to do the other side, which I didn't use. Now you got to make sure, of course, you do the wiring in the right orientation. Now these are going to have to go through this way, so it'll be in this fashion here, and we'll feed the wires through these holes. That's probably the best way to do it. Okay, let me get them in. There we go, they are secured. I think I will cut those connectors off of these, the Molex connectors, and then feed them through these holes because that'll be the cleanest way to go at this point. Now before I put the front panel back on, let me show you what I did here to prevent some of the front panel wiring from getting into the fan here now that it's exposed and it's so close to it. I went ahead and used tie wrap to tie it all down. So I put one here to tie the bundle together. I put one here to tie this bundle to this behind this screw, and I put one here to tie it behind here. Matter of fact, I didn't even cut that one off yet. So let me cut this tail off of the tie wrap. That way it's all kept nice and neat. And now I can come back here and I can put the front panel back on. Just push it in here nice and neat. And we squeeze it all together, snap it all together. And I'll double check on the inside to make sure that there's none of those wires have gotten in the way back on the other side either. Okay, it's time now for the motherboard. The first thing I got to do is put the I/O shield in, of course. Always double check, and I've said this before, make sure you don't have any bent tabs on here, especially bent into where they might wind up touching inside one of your connectors. Whatever's on the top you got to watch for most. Those are the ones that are hardest to get. But we got to put it in. This is the way it's going to go in. Over into here. I got the fan out, that'll make it a little bit easier. So I push this in here. You gotta hear that snap, and now this one popped out. I gotta snap that one. Double check on the tabs one more time. Let me get the motherboard, and let's get it in here. Very tight case. So what I'm gonna do is I'm now gonna connect up the 12 volts, the CPU power here. So I get that down in there. And what I'll do, let me tip it this way. There we go, that did it better. Tipping it this way did it. Gotta make sure the two halves of it are together. It's 2 4s. There we go. The motherboard is now in. Okay, let me do the front panel connectors, the most common ones first, the hardest ones to do. So it's the power LED, the power switch, etc. They all go in this connector right here behind this. So I'm going to pull this out for now, the speaker. That way I can see that one clearly. And I'll start with the ones that are the furthest away first. So the furthest away one is the hard disk LED. So that's the N2 over here. So the hard disk LED right here. So I'm going to put those. The orientation does matter. So this has a plus and a minus. You got to make sure you get the orientation correct on this. So the plus is on this side. And according to the diagram, that's going to go all the way to the end connector. So I'm going to put it back here like this. And those furthest two over there. Okay, now that I got the hard disk LED in its position over here, let me go ahead and find the next one, which has to be the power LED. Now this one comes in 2 separate pieces. So we have a plus one and a minus. This is the plus, that's the minus. So according to the book, again, the plus will be to the back of the case. So I'll put the plus in first, and then the minus next to it. So I'll put those in right in front of the other ones. That's 1, and that's 2. So they're both in. The next one in the back toward the bottom is the reset switch. So we got the reset switch here, power switch there. There is no polarity to that, so you just put it into the back here. And then finally, the last one is the power switch. Again, no polarity to that, so we just put it in right in front of the reset switch, and we should be good. There's one pin left over at the end here that is reserved according to the book, so we got that right. Now let's go to the rest of the connectors. Starting from the end, I did bring them through to where they approximately were. So this is the HD audio. Supposed to be high definition audio. A lot of people debate on that. The HD audio goes all the way in the end one over. So make sure that the blank pin matches, and it does. So it'll go all the way in the end one over here. And then we have the USBs. So here we have the USB. You know, I'm going to reroute that one. That one's in a hole I wouldn't want to do. Let me bring it over to the other hole over here. Bring it out here. And then I'll just connect that to the nearest one. Again, there's a missing pin. Make sure it's the correct one. So it'll be USB number 2 rather than number 1. That's fine. It'll still work perfectly okay. Just trying to get the wires as neat as possible. And then we have here the USB 3.0. And that'll go right here. That's that way. And then finally, I ran through the SATA for the SSD. So I ran through the straight connector. I picked this, if you look, here's the other end of it. It's got a 90-degree angle on it. That's how this drive is going to be mounted. So I'll go ahead and put this into the first SATA connector, SATA 1, like that. And I should be able to pull it through a little bit. All of these are going to get pulled through a little bit as I go. This one's already got the cable on it, and that takes care of the front panel. Okay, now let's put some of the other cables on that I had not put on yet. Let's start with the main power cable. We got the 20+4. You go in this way, right over here. Make sure you get the latch on the correct side. Push that in until it locks. Now the PCIe one, we'll wait till they put the video card in. I do have a fan cable that I fed in from the back here. I'll put this all the way up as fan, which one is that? Fan 3. So that'll be fan 3. And I have another one, and that'll go in as fan 4. As such, push that back through as best we can. This will sit here for a while. I've got the cable already coming out for the SATA power. The SSD, the way it worked out, when I looked at it again, it has to be on this lower one here. So I'll be putting the SSD in there. Get the SSD. These are going to be the connectors to it. Here, make sure we got the screws, and I do. Screws are right here. Let me go ahead and put the connectors on. Make sure I got the keying right. Looks like that one's correct this way. And then this one is going to jump up at a 90-degree angle and catch it this way. So that should be the correct way that it goes in. And so now we got the cables right. Push that underneath there, and then I'll screw it from the other side. There we go. The SSD is now in. Got the fans, got the front panel, the RGB. You know, I think that may be it. We may be ready for a video card. Well, before I did a video card, I realized I got one more fan to do. That has to go on the exhaust over here. So I've already put the cushions on it, on the correct side of it, because it's going to go in this direction so that the wind blows out that way. And I got to make sure that this is oriented right. The plug that it's going to go into is over here. So I'm going to orient it this way, but I need to tie this thing up a little bit. So let me pre-do this. Let me go ahead and put a cable tie on this. And there we go, we're in. Make sure always give it a little spin, make sure it spins freely. And now we can go ahead and do the video card. This one never did come with LAN connectors. A protector for that is. I don't know why. Make sure that this wire for the RGB is tucked underneath the front there. And then there's a lock back here that'll pop up like that one is. And we're locked in. Let me put the 2 screws at the top. This thing has a little plastic cover that I took off earlier to protect the little screw heads on the other side. I'll push that back and it just snaps in place. That's a nice little cover back there. Put the power in. Don't get this confused, by the way, with the one that goes into the CPU. They have different wiring, so you never switch the two. That's an important thing to remember. You could short out something. Hopefully the power supply will click off before that happens. Oh, I did it the wrong way. It actually is the other way. You see where the connector is? Make sure the connector is on the same side with the lock. Let's get this in there like that. Lock it in place. And then we push it down and we will cable manage that. So that takes care of it. I guess the next step is to try to see if we can connect up the cables from the outside and bring it up. Okay, I guess it's time for the smoke test. Let's see if we can push the button and get this thing going. Wow, came right up. Boy, that's nice to see. My grandson will be really happy with that. Well, it's been a long day, but we're finally done. What do you think? I think my grandson's going to like it. It definitely is much more powerful than he needs for, the classes that he has to take at home. But you never know. As he gets older, he'll probably grow into it and start using it for other purposes. Maybe even be a gamer someday. We'll see how that goes. Well, I just finished showing the test results, and as you can see, it didn't change too much. I was a little surprised by the drop in performance on Cinebench and on the Heaven benchmark, but the heat is the same. It didn't change it one way or the other. We still are running on the hot side if you put it under extreme stress, but I don't anticipate that that's going to be necessarily an issue with this PC, at least not in the short and medium term. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, if you got something out of this video that you found useful or enjoyed in any way, do me a favor, subscribe to my channel. My head will pop up here in a moment. Click on it, follow along and subscribe. It would really be helpful. Anyway, until the next video, take care, and I hope everybody stays healthy under the current world situation.